check, check. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, the 1st of March, which means it's time for a stream here at DSLR Video Shooter. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Trickle in, everybody. We got Pixel 5, Muhammad, Nice Media Design, Eli, Jordan, Losha, Bill, Joshua, Nice Media Design, Gilang. Welcome, everybody. Here we are. So, in case you haven't heard, let me get rid of these headphones real quick. And I'll turn this intro music down just a little bit. How we looking? How we sounding? Everything okay? Everything good? I keep tweaking the lighting in here ever since I moved things around in the office, which we'll see in an updated studio tour before too long. I just haven't quite gotten that lighting figured out. So we're still tweaking things. But yes, in case you missed the memo, we're going to be doing live streams here on the channel the first Wednesday of every month. So I used to do them every week. That was starting to get pretty rough on the old schedule, especially since I do another stream every single Wednesday over at Jem's channel. So that's the scoop. We're going to be doing first Wednesday of every month. And if you're a member of the channel, of which I see many beautiful folk, Alex, what's going on? Bart. I thought I saw Larry in here. Carlos. Those people in green with the cool little badge. All you guys, make sure you check the community tab where I'll be scheduling once a month private streams where we just kind of hang out. So let's get into this week. So much is going on. It's outrageous. I do want to say after this stream, I'll be going over to Jem Schofield's channel. We'll be talking about how we rig up cameras. So check out that. There's a link in the description. It's youtube.com/thec47. So I figured we could do a couple news items, if you will. I have a list here. I'll open up Evernote because a lot of stuff's going down. As you guys are probably already aware of. We got Blackmagic Raw, so that's really, really exciting. I cannot wait to test that. For those who have purchased my guide, I will be having an update to that before too long. Simon Saucy, welcome to the membership club. Love it, love it, love it. That's a great name too, Simon Saucy. Love it. Okay, so here's the deal. Let me pull up my live stream notes here. If I can find them here. You guys ever let your Evernote get just out of control and way too hairy? Because that happens to me. Rats, where are we? Here we go. Here we go. So, Sigma L lenses, they're happening from Sigma. Very exciting. It looks like they're just going to copy and paste all their lenses over to the L mount, which is really, really cool. So that's really going to help out. I'm just hoping the pricing isn't too crazy. I wouldn't expect it to be, but I almost have this conspiracy theory that Leica is licensing that mount to Panasonic and Sigma, and that's not going to be cheap, or they might be charging a lot, and that's maybe why the Panasonic lenses are so expensive. So anyway, that's really exciting. There's also going to be a Sigma adapter for Canon lenses to the L mount. It probably won't be too expensive, although it will not have autofocus continuous, which might not matter because the S1 might not be that good at autofocus for video. Canon, there's a rumor going around that we're going to see a 14-21 1.4 L lens. I do really hope that happens just so I can watch the Potato Jet review that's indefinitely going to, would happen if that lens came out. And if you're not subscribed to him already, you definitely should be. Potato Jet is one of my favorite YouTubers right now. He's just killing it. And then Blackmagic Raw, which I really hope gets adopted widely. I hope two things happen. I hope that gets adopted, and it's a little tricky because it's kind of on the camera side. It's not just, a processing, if you watch the video from Blackmagic, but it's a little different than DNG and other RAW formats in that the camera sensor and the camera processor is very heavily involved. So I hope that becomes adopted. I would love to see maybe Fuji, get some Blackmagic going on there when it comes to RAW. That would be amazing because it's open source. So in theory, anyone could, get that going with their camera systems. And then we have the second thing I'd love to see, and that is that Apple kind of opens up ProRes RAW to more cameras, more manufacturers, more post-production options so that it kind of spreads beyond Final Cut. I don't know if that'll happen, but we'll see. And I'd love to see us have more options and more control there, because if you've worked with ProRes RAW or really know much about it, you know that you pretty much don't have dials or a panel anywhere in the software where you can control your ISO, your white balance. You just kind of start grading, which is cool that it works that way. But as cinematographers and filmmakers and YouTubers, we really like to dial in our settings, right? So I'm hoping that ProRes RAW is similar to Final Cut 10 in that Apple just got it out there, it's here, and now they'll slowly refine it over time. So, but yeah, what's really interesting is we've kind of almost fully reached that 4K 422 10-bit realm that was very new when the GH5 came out, and 4K 60. I think this year we're going to see that kind of run across the board. 4K 60 frames per second, 422 10-bit will be kind of the norm for a lot of cameras. And what I'm really hoping happens in kind of 2020 and beyond is we start to see RAW as that next thing. And not just any RAW, but compressed RAW, because that is where things get really exciting. The fact that you could record with maybe even less data than on your GH5 and have RAW, that's good stuff right there. That's what that is. So with all that out of the way, let's jump into some questions. So if you have a question, hit me. Please, if possible, use the @DSLR video shooter in your comment. That way I can really see those so that we don't miss anything. So I'm going to start checking out the chat, see what y'all are talking about here. Yeah, so Larry, good call. There were so many Blackmagic camera videos yesterday, and I obviously partially due to Blackmagic RAW coming out, but I had no idea that was going to happen on that day. I don't know if they had announced that ahead of time. Was it just kind of a, hey, it's here, or was it planned ahead? I don't know, but there were a lot of videos, which was cool to see. Bring on the RF innovation. Yeah, what's funny is when the EOS R was first released or announced, a lot of people were saying it was going to take like 3 years for everyone to start figuring out the mounts, but we're already seeing a lot of adapters for both the R mount or RF mount and the Nikon Z mount, which is, I love that, but I wasn't expecting it to happen that fast. So good stuff. All right, what do we got? Pixel 5 question: any plans for an XT3 guide? Yes, I'm actually working on the guide right now. You might not be able to see it, but in back there somewhere is the XT3 in a ridiculous rig configuration. So I'm writing the guide right now. So what I usually do is I sit down with a camera, I go poke around every single corner of the menu system and find the relationships with settings, because often you change this, that, and the other thing, and now there's 3 settings that are unavailable or become available. So I also run through pretty extensive testing to see, what kind of ISO performance we're looking at, both noise and color. We're going to be looking at dynamic range, because there's a lot of settings you can play around with. Not only do you have your film emulation, but you also have tons of tone options, and then there's the dynamic range options. So a lot to test there. And then exposure. That's my favorite part of each guide, because I feel like it helps the most people out. And that is, at any given setting, how do you get correct exposure and absolutely nail it every time you go shoot? So that's the answer there. Pixel 5 definitely coming, and then a review along with it. Wildly great camera. So many things that are completely new to mirrorless. So I'm really looking forward to talking about that. Z-Cam E2 review. Will it happen? I would love to. I need to get rid of some cameras first. So if anyone's looking for some gear, by the way, little side note here, I'm going to be doing a huge used gear sale on my website. So right now we're doing all the photos of all the stuff, and we're going to be selling a lot of the stuff that we've purchased for videos here. And please don't take it as, oh, that's trash now because he's selling it. It's just I can't afford to buy cameras and hang on to them, because all the cameras I talk about I purchase. So Ouch. So we're going to be selling all those on the website. I'll probably do a community post or something here on the channel and on Twitter. So heads up on that. Let's see. From Eli, have you ever tried the Sony RX10 4 and the all-in-one? I have not tried the all-in-ones. I just don't have enough time to get into that smaller sensor realm. But I really am intrigued by them. And I think for video, a couple of those could be a great solution. Tech Reflex, will you release your XT3 review? It will happen. Not sure exactly when yet, though. Any budget lens suggestions for the G7 in a small bedroom for chroma keying? I would try. I love the 14 2.5. It's really nice on Micro Four Thirds. So I would give that one a shot. Buy it used. Maybe the 20mm f1.7. Those would all be good to check out. All right. Hey, Herdy, I'm traveling. What would you recommend for a Steadicam? I don't really use Steadicams or gimbals much. I know that's really hot right now. So that would probably be a better question for someone like Maddie Hapoya, who's really, really into glide cams and whatnot. But I'm sure someone in here in the comments has worked with them. So maybe you guys can help them out here. So, hey, Herdy, that is. 1,000 to spend. You get an A6500 or an A6300 in a Mavic Air. For filming, 1,000 to spend. I would probably get the A6400. I have been using that camera for my main camera for the video I just did on the Blackmagic. That was shot on the A6400, and I've got several more coming up because I just love shooting video on that camera as a YouTuber. I have a little tripod, a little tiny camera, nothing else attached. Audio is external, and I love it. Love it. Have you heard of the Z-Cam? Yes. The real red camera for cheap people. It doesn't shoot RAW, though, correct? Isn't there like a global option and then a 4K 120 option? But I don't think there's RAW, unless I'm missing something. From Bernardo, I have the 1DX Mark II. Should I buy an EOS RP as a B camera, recreational camera? For video, if you're okay with 30 frames per second, why not? Let's see here. Bill, any experience with the Sennheiser open back for editing? With Sennheiser open back, I have not. I'm not sure what that is. You'll have to let me know. Bart, what's going on, Bart? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Chat's getting crazy here. I'm going to catch up, guys. I promise. Nope, we already talked about that. Where's Bart? There he is. Gotta run. Prep for some quick B-roll coverage. Take care, Bart. Good to see you. Is there still a Canon M50 video review coming? I really should do a review. I just really don't love that camera. And there's so much going on right now. So, yeah, I should probably get to one. But in short, it's a phenomenal, tiny 1080p camera. That's pretty much it. If you want a Canon and you want to shoot 1080, you're really not going to beat that for the money and the size. David, what camera are you streaming with right now? I don't usually ask, but the bokeh is interesting. So right now I'm using the A7 III with the Tamron 28 to 75. So yeah, it's a great lens. If you're gonna buy this camera, whoop, too wide. Nope. That's better. If you're gonna buy this camera, I would highly recommend you pick up this lens. What do you think of the XT30, or should I save a few extra bucks and get the XT3? I see. Save for the XT3. I think I just pre-ordered the 30 because, I mean, what is it? $900. That's amazing. Really, the only thing that's a downside to me is 4K is only 10 minutes unless you use an external recorder. So that is a really tough one. If you do kind of a hybrid shooting style and you like something small, I don't know if you can beat that. I really don't. Going down here, we got MPH Legend. How can I solve the USM autofocus noise on videos? You could have a microphone a little further away from the lens, Maybe have it off to one side. So instead of having it on top of the camera, just move it over a little bit. Best camera setup for documentary, camcorder or stick with DSLR mirrorless for better visuals, from Gauntlet. I would say like something like a C200. C100 Mark II is phenomenal for documentary work, something that'll take the abuse. For a mirrorless styles camera, I would probably stick with like a GH5 or GH5S. Those are really well built cameras. They can handle some pretty hardcore abuse when it comes to weather, and they're small and they work phenomenal. So if I was a doc shooter, I'd probably have a GH5S and a GH5, so you kind of have the low light, larger field of view, and the stabilized. But if I had to pick one, GH5, little XLR unit on top, done. Thoughts on the Fuji X-T20 versus the G7? So the X-T20, I believe, only shoots, 15 frames a second? So that's kind of a no-go for me. So in that case, I would stick with the G7. Oh, we got a donation from Seether. It's been a while. Where is it? But there we go. Seether, Canadian, $20. Very appreciative of your content and the fact that we don't have to go through 20 minutes of B-roll before a point is made. Ouch. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. Very kind of you. Let's see what we got here. Moving right along. Again, if you want to ask a question, for those who just jumped in, do the @DSLR video shooter, and I'll make sure I get your questions. Going up here. I'm traveling. Could you recommend a Steadicam? We already covered that. Have you heard anything about the new Nikon Z5? I saw the rumor, but I really didn't dive into that, so I'm not quite sure what's up there. Colin, what are your recommendations for camera and lens or camcorder for corporate videos? I mean, most of the stuff we're working with now would work just fine. I mean, this A7 III with this lens would be great. This Tamron 28-75. Otherwise, if I was still doing corporate work and did not have this YouTube channel, I'd probably use an FS5, if I'm honest. Just FS5, couple primes that, what is it? Some 18-105 from Sony, done. Easy, easy, easy. So if you can afford it, I think that's a winner. Welcome, Alan. What's going on? Simon Saucy. Love it. All right. Yeah, getting those badges going on. Question, any other suggestions on a budget manual focus lenses for Sony APS-C? Man, there's so much you could do there. You know, the regulars, Canon FD, Nikon, AIS lenses, or Nikkor. You could also look into some of the Chinese optics. There's tons of those designed for, you know, those smaller Sony sensors. I would check out, what's his name? Peter, help me out, guys. Who's this guy? He does tons of lens reviews. Peter somebody, I think. Yeah, but Midigon, companies like that, lots of good stuff. Alrighty. What do you think about the Confinity cameras? I haven't tried them, but I love the idea of them. And as I've talked about with the guys on the next stream that we're going to get to over at Jem Schofield's channel, they've talked about, I think the main reason they're not super stoked behind it is they don't have servicing. So, you know, most other camera companies, they have service centers. So if something goes wrong, you know, you can get things taken care of. Whereas with their cameras, if something goes wrong, you're kind of out of luck, and it might be a while before you get a replacement. If you could only shoot with one focal length for the rest of your life, Vin, what would it be? Rest of my life, probably a really fast 40 millimeter. Yeah, 35 or 40. That's probably where I would be. That would make me very sad, but that's a great question. What would you guys pick? I'm very curious. Also depends on the sensor size, of course, but probably 35, 40. Sennheiser, open back headphones. I couldn't tell you. I use Sony MDRs, so nothing fancy over here in Caleb land. Nodia talks about the Sony A7S III. at the moment. Nobody expect it to be released soon. Maybe the storm, but maybe a storm is coming. What do you think? I don't know, man. They're clearly taking their time, and I hope it's worth it, and I think it will be worth it. So have to wait and see. Thoughts on the Sony 5R? Sony NEX 5R. Oh, like, yeah. So the 5N, 5R, they're pretty much exactly the same for video. For stills, I think there's a little more resolution there. But yeah, not bad. Is it bad to use a 100-foot or even longer audio cable so I can avoid recording externally? This is why I run audio right into the camera. Are there any lag issues? Depending on what microphone, are you doing phantom power? Is it balanced? All that stuff, the quality of your cables. That's a better question for an audio guy. I would love it if Judd was in here. Curtis Judd, if he was in here, he would know. I would definitely ask him on Twitter or on his YouTube channel. Curtis Judd, he's a wizard. Please cover the Fuji 16-55, 18-55 2.8 kit lens for video shooters if possible. Yeah, in my guide, I'll definitely talk about it. I'll probably talk about it in my review. I pre-ordered the new 16f2, so I'm really excited to see how that performs. So far, I'm really not that impressed with the slightly older primes from Fuji. It's pretty rough on the autofocus front. All right. Jumping down here, I'm looking for those orange at DSLR video shooter tags, so if you're asking questions, that's where it's at. Any rumors around new aperture lights coming out? Will you do comparison to Godox? I got to, right? Everyone's asking for it. I actually have the Godox 100 watt SL100, so I should probably just pick up the 60 and just jump in. But when it comes to aperture, I don't know for 1,000% fact about a lot of their future stuff. We know that RGB panel's coming. I would take their history and apply that to their future products. So they took the 120D and they updated it. My guess is we'll see a 300D Mark II, hopefully a mini 20D update, and hopefully they do some pretty hefty work on that puppy. Otherwise, I couldn't tell you, but hopefully we'll see RGB and bicolor in their future lights. So brighter, just making their lights better. Clearly they're doing great on the light front. They just are probably just going to improve stuff. Fastest lens you've ever used? I've used some 0.95s for Micro Four Thirds, and then 1.2 vintage lenses. What do you think about the Z-Cam? Will you do a review? Hopefully in the future. Not right now, though. I use a Canon 80D right now. Is it worth buying the M50 as well? Not really. It's pretty much the same when it comes to video. Although there's some little differences. I would watch Potato Jet's videos. He compared all of those cameras and found the M50 was a little better. But if you're looking for a second camera, why not? But if you're looking for a replacement, I would wait and maybe bump up to like an R. How do you feel about the RE650 Plus? Is that a light? Their 650? Is that an LED version of their 650? Let me know. And Simon, saucy, $2. Thoughts on the Sony NEX5R. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. Thank you so much for the donation, man. It's pretty much the same as the 5N for video. For stills, it's a little better, but do you guys think I should do a video on the older Sony cameras? Because there's like 50 different models, and there's only 4 things you need to look out for when it comes to video. But yeah, any of those older Sonys, you're going to do fine. And they're pretty much very similar, except for the differences I talked about in that video. Viltrox or Metabones for the Blackmagic. So the Viltrox works really well. The Metabones is built way better. So, well, they're both okay. They're both good enough, but the Metabones really click, nice tight fit, whereas the Metabones is a little more wobbly. So, got to think about that. Big fan of your videos for many years now. I really appreciate the content. My question is, what are your thoughts on external recorders like Adamus? Probably with the A6400. This is from Richie. Thank you, Richie. I wouldn't use it with the A6400 unless you kind of want to monitor and as a bonus a recorder. I don't think you're going to get that much of a bump in quality. Most of those Sonys, all you're doing is going from 420 8-bit to 422 8-bit. So it's probably not worth it. But if you're planning on upgrading down the road, that could be a smart move. And the Ninja 5 is just going to get better over time. It can now do RAW over HDMI if camera manufacturers get on board. So yeah, I think that's what's up there. So thank you so much for the donation, or the kind words, man. All right, I'm gonna take a sip of water. Getting a little parched up in here, and I'm sorry about this. You know, when you get hit in the afternoon and it's nap time. That happened to me today. So here we go. All right, Smith. Hey, I'm starting a talk show with 4 to 6 people. What is the best way to do audio without breaking the bank? So I would do wired lavs. That would be the cheapest by far way. Unless you want to do like a round table with microphones on the desk or something, that could work too. But wired lavs is a great way to go. If you can find a way to run that wire somewhere, you're going to get really nice sound without spending too much. Right on. Going down here, Zayun Crane 2, about the most useless piece of kit I've ever owned. Any recommendations on an actually good gimbal? Wow. Alan, how you doing, man? I couldn't tell you. I'm not a big gimbal guy. I know the Lab 3, the Crane 3 Lab is like out now, and everybody seems to love the Ronin. I'd love to buy both and try them from an objective standpoint, because I know those two companies are just throwing gimbals at everybody right now. But it's not really in the books for me just yet. Sorry, dude, I can't really help you more than that. I have the original Crane. That's it. D-Logic. What camera do you recommend for a second camera? I have a GH5 for streaming at church, but need a second camera for a close-up. Only have micro four thirds lenses. If you're not using, I would imagine, yeah. So I would get a G7 or G85. I don't know if you're using HDMI for your workflow there, but a G85 would be a good option if that's what you're doing, is running over HDMI, and that would work well because it's got a crop, an additional crop when you use HDMI, so that could be helpful actually. You produce much of your content in 4K, whereas most producers are still in 1080. What's driving your use of 4K, even though there's a considerable storage processing overhead? So I've been meaning to talk about this for a while, and I should do a video on it. But if I were you, I would recommend thinking way out, way ahead, and start learning to get ready for that future. Sorry if I'm being cryptic, but in short, someday, and even right now, 1080p kind of looks bad. And I know a lot of people are saying, you don't need anything but 1080p. It's more than enough. No one can tell the difference. Well, we're starting to use phones that have way higher resolution. I have a 4K monitor and then a 5K monitor. And when I watch like Peter McKinnon or people who upload in 1080p, much less 720, it looks really soft. Even, at a smaller size on my screen, you can immediately tell this looks mushy DSLR video. So I think we should prepare and think ahead and get into those workflows now before you have to learn and catch up, right? Same with log. I think everyone, if your camera shoots log, you should start learning how to shoot log, because someday we're gonna be shooting HDR. So if you get comfortable with it now, when that day comes, your life is easy. But if you wait until clients are like, dude, we can't hire you because it has to be in HDR, or you mess it up or something. So that's kind of my thing with 4K. It gives me a ton of flexibility. I do use it for punch-ins and crops. Less and less I'm like going like this, right, where I'm cutting back and forth. It's more like, let me actually use this shot as a close-up and just blow it up. You can do that with 4K. So that's the deal with HD and 4K and why I upload in 4K. Yeah, there you go. Let's see, my chat jumped. So I'm going to jump down here. Okay, here we go. SL2 or G7? I haven't used the SL2, so I would say based on sensor size, and I would go for the G7 probably. Does the SL2 have dual pixel? Because that could be a thing as well. What's the best Canon streaming camera? That's a good question. Not many of them. The EOS M or EOS M would kind of work. Yeah, probably the EOS M. What video are you working on uploading next? Great question. Maybe you guys can help me decide. So I can do either Shinobi versus, or I got a couple in the works. Shinobi versus Ninja 5. So comparing those, because there are some differences. Maybe that's of interest to you. Maybe it's not. Or a video that I've been debating about if I should or should not do for like a year now, and that is, so I'm probably going to do something dramatic like saying goodbye to Rode. Essentially why I no longer recommend Rode microphones and alternatives. So those are kind of the two options. I'm also working on cleaning this place up so we can do a studio tour, and I've got a ton of camera reviews to get to. So yeah. What do you think it's worth to round trip, color correct, grade, and resolve? I would love to do it more, but it does take just a little bit of time. So it's pretty easy. And I would recommend it for normal projects. For YouTube, that's pretty rough, right? To go back and forth. Any lighting tips for a bar space? 2 people in a bar standing at a bar. It really depends, but probably try to bounce something off the ceiling and use practicals to kind of influence that direction. Any tips on crystal clear export videos for YouTube? I need to do a video on that because there's some stuff that could get unpacked there. What are your thoughts on a light setup being used? Doing a light setup using one small light panel like the F7. Do you need a big key? You need big light sources, but you don't need a big light. So you could bounce easily with an F7 and get plenty of light. All right, I'm jumping down. I'm sorry, guys. It's kind of jumping all over the place every time it updates. I'm going to scroll down here. Which external monitor can you recommend for the GH5? They're all pretty much the same. Just find a budget and stick with it on Amazon. Lots of cheap Chinese that are plenty good. The Shinobi have a problem with uploading LUTs. Some of them working LUT size. How convert to the size? I couldn't tell you. Jordan, can you show us your Pocket 4K rig? Unfortunately, no. It's in the next room. Yeah, it's not with me, but maybe next time. Sorry, I'm saying a lot. That's a thing now. During your corporate work, what did you do to relax a nervous guest doing a talking head piece? So here's the deal. A lot of the time they would come in with like this script because they don't want to mess up, right? So they'd be super nervous. They'd bring a script, and I would take the script away. And I would just tell them, we're just going to have a conversation. Don't worry about the camera. Let's just talk. And I wouldn't start with the main topic. I would just kind of ask about their day, you know, do you have kids, pets? Get them really relaxed. The sooner you can get them in the chair, in my opinion, the better, so they can get used to the lights, the environment, and kind of just chill there. So by the time it's time to get into questions, they're kind of relaxed. So it can be tough, though. Some nuts you just can't crack, right? Nick, are Zeiss lenses worth it for video? I got a guy that can give me discounts. I think Zeiss lenses are great. I've only owned vintage Zeiss stuff. But, you know, they're really solid lenses for sure. I wouldn't spend, you know, gobs on them like some of their high-end stuff, but yeah. Hi from France. Hi line. What do you think of the Sony 28 to 135 f4 on the A7 III for travel? I think it sounds great. I haven't used it yet, but on full frame, f4 is great. Love it. Do you try the Fringer adapter to use Canon glass in the X-T3? I'm loving it. Okay, nice. That's good to know. I have not tried that. What's your recommendation on a go-to wedding filmmaker camera. Wedding filmmaker, Fuji would be pretty great, I would imagine. I'm not a wedding guy, so I can't really tell you. Maybe you wedding beautiful people in here can help us out here. Hey, I'm starting to talk. Oh, we did that. Let's see, man. I gotta figure. I wish there was a way to, no matter what, the chat doesn't move. That really, really bugs me. Okay, we are caught up. So, MM Smith dropping another donation. £1. If you have a question, let me know, man. I would love to help you out there. My headroom's a little weird right now. Okay, Holy Grabo, Canon SL2 versus Panasonic G7. We talked about that. Man, I'm all caught up, apparently. Here's another donation. I'm going to upgrade you to a medium donation explosion. There it is. So this one is from Mike Weaver 71. No questions, just big thanks for the continued excellent content. High fives from Spokane. Nice. My wife is from Moscow, Idaho. So pretty sick. Love it. Thanks, man. Really, really means a lot. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there goes the chat again. All right, I found my spot. Here we go. From Jason, any affordable storage solutions for big file sizes of the Pocket 4K? Well, first of all, they're getting a lot smaller after that update. Whew, just the typical stuff, you know, get a RAID, make sure you have backups. And I think that 6 terabyte to 8 terabyte hard drive is a great range to save some money by buying, you know, in bulk. So that's probably what I would go with. I need to buy a main camera for narrative, but also corporate and wedding stuff. For me, the Blackmagic 4K looks great. Would you say it would perform well in those scenarios? I wouldn't say that. For narrative, yes. If you've got a crew, I think that's a great camera. For filmmakers, for corporate work, could totally work as well. For weddings, I'm not sure. There's zero autofocus. You might as well consider it zero autofocus. And if it starts raining, you're kind of done. That camera's not going to survive getting wet. So for weddings, maybe not so much. If you're indoors ceremonies, that's probably fine, but you're going to need a ton of power. So I would take that and figure that into your buying decision. Matthias, I need to buy me. Nope, we did that. My bad. Any tips for matching GH4 and GH5 footage? Having trouble with Vlog. Yeah, Ian, that's a really tough one. GH5 and 5S, much easier. But Vlog L on those two cameras is actually fairly tricky, mainly on the GH4's end. So I would do some tests with some cards. Take a color chip card or chart and shoot with both cameras and see what you can get there. AF8 Images, agree with you, thinking way ahead, working with 4K, looking forward to your video on the topic, just starting YouTube and taking the hit like you. Nice, love it. And, you know, it doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world, right? Like Sony 4K is very different from Canon 4K, for example. Another water, gonna mute myself so you don't hear the gulps. Question from Hudson. Feel World, will you put monitors for HDMI out? Problems live streaming? They should work fine. Yeah, in and out monitors are gonna work great. What's a good cheap wide M40 and micro four thirds lens? Depending on how wide you want to go. Rokinon has a couple. Might want to check those out. Do the Blackmagic setup. Got it. Original reviews. And just as a reminder, we're approaching the time where I'm going to head over to Jem's channel. So just a heads up, we're going to do that here in a little bit. Links in the description. So I'm going to finish up here, use the gentleman's room, and then join Jem and Ben over there in a little bit. So we're going to knock out some more questions here. Let's do a lightning round, shall we? Jordan Wright, can you show your... No, I can't show the rig. It's in the other room. Sorry. Kenneth, it's all about 4K 60. When and why don't we see 4K 120? Body's got to get more efficient or bigger, I think. Dylan, what do you think about the light setup with small panels? We talked about that. 360 grad, what you doing, brother? Would love to get a review of the lavalier mic voice technology 506. Interesting. I'll copy that and check that out, dude. Thanks. Titanium waffle. That's such a great name. Man, that's good. B-roll camera for the A7R III. Under 1,000 Canadian. A7R3. Dude, A6400. Done. Love it. What's a good cheap? Talked about it. Got him. D-Tech Logic. Any thoughts on Sennheiser ME66K6 mic? Is that a newer shotgun from them? I haven't used it. Do you recommend the Pocket 4K Cinema Pocket? You know what I mean. Yes, the camera's great. Haven't tried the mic. Sounds interesting though. Pixel 5 options on the use of Pro Mist filters. You know what? I need to buy some of those. I used to shoot with them. I don't know what happened to mine. I need to get some more. So couldn't tell you right now. Strengths. If you can try the different strengths and get find one you like, that's really, really helpful. B-Cam did it. A lot of repeats here. Do you think Vlog is the best picture profile on the GH5? Absolutely. The GH5 and Vlog L is insanity good. So if you have that camera, you might consider getting Vlog L. If you have a GH5S, stop what you're doing and shoot with Vlog. Learn how to expose with it. I've done a guide on it if you want to check it out. There's a link to the Academy in the description where we talk about exposing for it, but it's definitely my favorite log right now to work with, especially on those cameras. You can push and pull, no problems at all. Love it. Pro tip, overexpose though by about a stop. That's going to really help with shadows. Great question, Caesar. David, I've heard some bad things about Vlog on the GH5. Sorry about that. Issues with color macro blocking. Thoughts? Nope. On the GH4, on the GH4, had a little mini stroke there. It's not very good. But on the GH5, if you overexpose and pull things down a little bit, you're pretty solid. Best all around video, photo, XT3 or A7 III. That is a really tough one. The A7 III is kind of the best all rounder, especially if you throw like this Tamron lens on it. But I think I would go for the XT3, just because of color. So they're both really good though. They're probably the most fun right now when it comes to cameras. Dennis, hey, I wanted to upgrade to a full frame camera. Should I get rid of my Canon lens set and switch to Sony because of the better specs over the EOS R? If you're happy with your Canon stuff, if I'm you, I'm waiting until the end of this year to see what else Canon does. Just in case they come out with a body that doesn't cost you 2 kidneys and is good, might be worth hanging on to your stuff, right? Game Spotlight TV Live. He says, would you suggest a GH4 as a budget-friendly option? I'm going to have to say I'd skip the GH4. Since that camera, they came out with the G7 and G85, both are better for video, in my opinion, when it comes to just the image quality at 4K. All right, going down here. First off, you're rad. No, you're rad. Desfit. Thanks for all you do. Second, trying to decide between the G85, GH4 for 30-minute A-roll content, but using a Ninja Inferno. Any reason for one or the other over the other? The GH4 has more like time code, HDMI settings, things like that. But the G85 is going to be cleaner, has in-body stabilization, and less of a crop. So take that into your consideration. All right, Scott McKenna, what's going on, dude? How are ya? Dean. And by the way, for those who just joined us, I'm pinging these questions that are tagged. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to wrap up here, so we're just gonna wrap it up real fast. Here we go. Dean, any suggestions for sharp off-brand lenses for the XT3 Sigma? Maybe Mitagon. I haven't tried those, but I know a lot of people are using those. And vintage lenses. You're good to go, man. Colin, thanks for your tip earlier. Which lights do you recommend for corporate video? Also, Drobo NAS lights, aperture is great. Godox on a budget. These LED panels I've talked about, I love from Falcon Eyes and Menic. And then when it comes to Drobo, I'm saying hard no on the Drobo front. Don't mess with that crap, man. Stuff can go really weird. Stick with RAID. Just find a solid RAID enclosure and get some nice drives. So that's a way better, safer way to go if I'm you. No Olympus love? Not cameras. They make some great lenses, though. All right. Going down here. Dylan, GH4 versus M50 versus 1080p pocket cinema camera for documentaries and sit down with background in focus. Wow. That is a lot. Any of those will do good. Pocket cinema camera if you're down for getting raw and getting weird with that camera. Love it. What is a good DSLR for a newbie? M50, which is mirrorless, SL cameras, pretty much anything from the 7D and into the future or to now would be a good place to start if you're just getting started. All right, folks, we have reached 4:46. Here's what's going to go down. I'm going to roll a little outro thing here. We're going to count things down. I'm going to hop over to Jem Schofield's channel, where we're going to be doing the Flask show, which will start in 15 minutes, but we'll probably do a pre-show. So it looks like he hasn't quite started up yet. So maybe we'll go a little further. Jem, if you're watching, I'll wait for you, bro, to call it. All right. So yeah, back to questions. I take that back. What we'll be doing is before we start the show on Jem's channel at 5, we usually just kind of hang out, see what everyone's doing in the chat, and then we'll go live. So going down here, Cine Like D versus Cine Like V, Smith. That's a great question. I've never really liked either. Cine Like D has always made skin look plastic and orange. It's like a toy Trump doll or something. Something's wrong. I don't like it. So I prefer shooting in log. But that's me. I know a lot of people use it. I prefer natural if you're not going to do log. Hello from Texas. What's up? E-Convoy Designs. Deacon, how much should someone spend when beginning filmmaking? I don't think you should spend anything if you don't have the money. So I would start a little budget. And if you're able to get some gigs, put a little bit towards something each time. But the beauty of today's world is you can get some really nice stuff without spending much. The cheapest, best option for a large sensor when I got started with this was the Canon 7D, which had just come out. And so that was $1,900, I think, to get started in that, which was every penny I owned I had available. Whereas now it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Brad Fogel, wanna drop a teaser for the Lost That Rodin feeling? Lost that That's good, dude. In short, I don't think Rode is making microphones that are the best option right now. Their marketing is amazing. They're a great company. They've done a ton for the filmmaking community. But there's better players right now and way better options when it comes to sound quality and features, in my opinion. So we'll talk about that next week, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe next week, who knows? What considerations for color grading non-log footage out of a Canon Rebel? You really got to get that exposure correct. And again, going back to log, the beauty with log is, first of all, you're set for the future. If you shoot a log project today, you could refinish that and immediately view it in HDR 10 years from now. You don't have to do HDR now. So log is a great method to be future proof, but in short, when you're shooting Rec 709, on your waveform, here's your whites, here's your blacks, you're already filling that all the way. So if you overexpose too much, like my hand, see how it's starting to get too white there? Actually, I'll just jack it up. That's gone forever. In log, this white blown out part of my hand is sitting from 100 to 0. It's like down here. So you can easily move things around. If you haven't already, watch some videos. I should do some videos on log, but you should start playing with log. And again, you can use LUTs to bring it back. So Panasonic actually produces a LUT for Vlog, and most of the time I shoot log in Vlog. I drop that LUT on it, I make 2 little changes, and I walk away. You don't have to go crazy if you don't want to. Also, that's still a little too bright. Something like that. Donald Taylor II. What considerations? Oh, we just talked about that. Good question. Talked about that. Do you use a denoiser when you shoot in Vlog? No. The trick is overexposing. In my guide, I do talk about how much you should overexpose and how to correct things. But overexposing and pulling it down, that pretty much eliminates noise. Good EF to micro. Good. Here we go again. Come on, Caleb. Good EF to Fuji X mount adapter for X-T3. I haven't tried any that are electronic that will give you autofocus, but I'm going to be covering a bunch when I get this guide for the X-T3 done. So I can't really tell you yet because I haven't really tried any yet. What's an ISO? ISO. Watch Gerald Undun's video on mispronunciations and you'll learn some good stuff. Okay, folks, let's see what's going on over in Gemland. Looks like he hasn't quite started yet. So what I'm going to do now is head over there and get all queued up. I've got my beverage ready to go. And we're going to settle in and talk about how we rig up our cameras. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, we're doing this every single Wednesday. The first Wednesday of every month. You guys are beautiful people who I appreciate so much. Thank you for being kind to me, but also to each other. I see what you're doing in the comments, and I really appreciate the community we've developed here, and you guys have been a phenomenal group of people to make videos for. So I do really, really appreciate you guys. I will see you over in Jem Schofield's stream in just a bit. Looks like he just went live, so let me use the restroom, get settled back in, and I'll see you guys over there. I'm going to drop a link in the chat if you, for whatever reason, can't click down below. Oh, where did I put that? Right here. So it's in the description, camera and flask. Boop, there it is in the chat. See you guys over there. Have a wonderful evening if you can't make it, and thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye-bye.